You are listening to You Restored with Dr. Kelley Reis. To listen to all episodes, visit libertynaturalwellness.com. On this episode of You Restored, we are going to break down hormone replacement therapy. It is the hot topic of late. Now, honestly, guys, it's been a hot topic for years and years and years. But it's more so now because the black box warning from the FDA was removed a few months ago, saying that, maybe it's not as harmful as the FDA wanted to, make you think. Now, that's great. I'm all about freedom of, you should be able to try things for your health. But what that has done is it is really sending people almost the other way, like it is just some form of supplement. Guys, hormone replacement therapy, these are hormones. This is really important and potentially serious type of, air quote here, medications. And hormones should not be taken lightly. Now, HRT, especially bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, any kind of hormone replacement therapy was considered really the villain a while back. It was used, the synthetic form was used in the Y study, Women's Health Initiative, many years ago. And then they started coming out with bioidentical. What bioidentical means is your body actually recognizes these substances as estradiol, as progesterone, as testosterone. So the body isn't getting this fake message of a, it's kind of like progesterone, but not progesterone. It's the real deal. And that's the good news about HRT, are bioidenticals. But now they've become the hero in the wellness world. And, I'm not so sure how I feel about that, to be honest. Is there a place for hormone replacement therapy? 100%. And I am by no means anti-HRT. I mean, I have prescribed plenty over my 22 years. I've prescribed plenty of bioidentical hormones. Now, we've got to get into, first off, why are we depleted? So, number one, perimenopause, menopause. These are really marketed towards men and women, but we're going to talk women first. Very much marketed towards women who might be experiencing hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, brain fog, and it is being sold as a fix-all. Oh, you need to be on hormones. I'm going to give you an example, actually, of a client I spoke to today, Jennifer. She went to her OB-GYN and sat down. Doctor came in. Doctor had prescription pad in hand. Did not look at one bit of her intake that she filled out. Didn't even open it up. And said, I want to prescribe estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone for you. And Jennifer said, but you haven't even looked at my history. Why would you want to prescribe hormones? Oh, well, it's all of your symptoms. And that's what I want to prescribe. And she wrote them all out. And she did not run one test. Not one test. And she's prescribed, this isn't candy. This isn't a simple vitamin C supplement. These are hormones. They are not without risk. Do they have benefits? Of course. So estrogen, great for bones, brain health, cardiovascular health. That is all true. Do you need to be on it at 67 years old to protect your brain, your bones, and your cardiovascular system? No, not necessarily. And I'm going to say, usually just a flat out no. Hormones are about balance. You've got to understand why you could be depleted or why your balance is off. We've got so many xenoestrogens. These are fake estrogens, foreign estrogens that we're getting in our water supply, we're getting in the air we breathe. Plastics are huge. So we are taking in estrogens. They act as estrogens in our body. And so we are taking in estrogens. That throws the balance off big time. But, number two, we are medicalizing menopause. And what I mean by that is we are acting like it's a disease. That, here is the fix for your disease of menopause. Ladies, menopause is a natural transition. This is not something to medicate. Your symptoms are a sign of imbalance. And that is not always due to a deficiency. Now, sometimes it is. And when there's a true deficiency, like I said, I am not anti bioidentical hormones, not at all. And so, looking at what the true deficiency is, half of these women and men are not being tested, or no, they're not being tested properly. So we are, adding a lot of times fuel to a fire. We're adding something that really does come with risks, really comes with risks. So I want to talk about the nervous system because I really like to talk about, sympathetic dominance, and we're always running in overdrive, running too fast. And, cortisol, the stress hormone, when it is, higher than it should be, not a natural curve like it should be, but when it runs high, it actually steals pregnenolone, which is a precursor to progesterone. It actually steals it from progesterone. So if you are running on high, got that gas pedal pushed to the floor, your cortisol is stealing resources from your progesterone. That is a huge factor. And here, that could be, a true progesterone deficiency because of the pregnenolone steal. But that's not, just throw progesterone back in the mix. That's address the cortisol. Don't we want to restore real balance? So you want to address the cortisol in a situation like that, make it stop stealing from progesterone, and that helps to restore progesterone's levels and brings that balance back. We have a natural balance between estrogen and progesterone, and you need progesterone to counteract all the things that, the bad things that estrogen can do. I always say it's like the twin sisters. You've got the one that's more of the angel, the one that's, a little more rambunctious and devil-like. And, the angel is always trying to calm, keep the, the rowdy sister in check. When estrogen runs amok and does not have progesterone to keep it calm, that's when we see the bad things about estrogen. We see this estrogen dominance, cruddy periods, hot flashes. Yeah, estrogen dominance can create hot flashes, in my experience, more than estrogen deficiency. But then we have all, the uterine cancers, breast cancers, prostate cancers for men when we have estrogen running high. So restoring balance isn't always, let me put you on estrogen. The biggest mistake that I see practitioners make is putting women on estrogen, progesterone, testosterone due to a blood test. So they run a blood test, just testing for estradiol, which is the most potent estrogen, but just testing estradiol, testing progesterone in blood, testing testosterone in blood. No downstream metabolites like the Dutch test that I like, shows all the downstream metabolites. And they go, you're low. Now you could be a 67-year-old woman and they are looking for reproductive levels. You might be in postmenopausal levels of estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone, but they want to elevate those. And so next thing you know, you're on a cream that's got all three of them combined, the testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all in one cream because it saves money. And you need them all, so here's one cream, it makes it easier. You don't know which one is doing what. So if you tried to tease that apart, now you can't. You have all this cream sitting around and you can't use it. you can use it, but you can't figure out, is testosterone making me like, I feel kind of anxious and aggravated all the time? Or is it estrogen or is it progesterone? So combining them all, poses a big problem when we're trying to tease things apart. But, women are given this prescription, just let's throw all the hormones at it. You need it. And honestly, in my 22 years, I have seen more women need less of it, if any. Sometimes progesterone. I find progesterone to be really, a really nice kind of comforting, nurturing hormone in a lot of women. But, to better understand the balance, you need numbers. You need real numbers. These practitioners, like for Jennifer that I was talking about, throwing her on all these hormones, did not even ask her or look at her history, didn't ask about breast cancer history, didn't ask about family history, and didn't test. And then is going to throw her on hormones. I can't tell you how dangerous this is becoming. You could throw a stone and probably hit, 3 wellness clinics who specialize in testosterone pellets. It is everywhere. And they're acting like, oh, bring back your youth and all of that. And rarely are they testing properly. So I find women and men in harm's way all of the time. Switch to men for a second. So we have, men being put on, usually it's a testosterone injection. And I mean, they're not without pain. And, they're switching some to cream, but testosterone injection into the thigh. And, they test the testosterone. On occasion, they'll test their estrogen, but usually not. So we're looking at testosterone, what's available in the blood. Oh, you're low T, dude. You need testosterone. So they're doing injections. They don't feel great. Maybe at first they feel great, but eventually they're not feeling so good. They feel inflamed. They feel puffy. They feel swollen, sore, all of that. So I run a Dutch. Lo and behold, that testosterone is converting straight into estrogen. And like I said, some doctors will test for estradiol, some. But it doesn't necessarily convert straight to estradiol. It could be a downstream metabolite that is building up, making them very predisposed to prostate cancer. They didn't know that. They just saw that their testosterone was low. They did injections. Doctor retested. It's still low. Double it. They did more injections, higher dosage. And then I run the test. And now we have hugely elevated downstream estrogen metabolites. They're in harm's way. And the doctors weren't checking it. This is a big problem. So, understanding your natural levels is crucial. If you want to try out bioidentical hormone replacement, always make sure it's bioidentical. Get your levels checked properly. If you are truly low and low for your age and, there could be some benefit, I am not against it. But most practitioners, like I said, they're not doing the test properly. So, we have hormones masking these real problems. So as I said in the beginning, using the progesterone instead of looking like, holy moly, your cortisol is jacked up. And that's why your progesterone is low. But we're just going to keep giving you progesterone, leave you in sympathetic dominance, and really get nowhere. You've got to address this in layers. You have to address it in layers and not just throw bioidentical hormone replacement band-aids onto things. It's still the same picture. It's still the same picture. So having the appropriate testing, honestly, most doctors aren't prepared for that type of testing. You can't really get that in blood. Blood is accurate. Blood testing is accurate. However, it's not comprehensive to see where is it going. Where is it going? And then, really checking your cortisol. No one's ever going to run 4 blood cortisol tests, nor would it be, a good idea, because that's not going to be super accurate. The minute a needle goes into your body, cortisol is going to be thrown off. So they're not seeing the full picture, and, they're still prescribing it. So, while I love that wellness clinics are popping up everywhere, I do think that bioidentical hormone replacement can be dangerous. And for many it is. So many people I have tested are way, way out of whack and not balanced just because they're on bioidenticals. Another client that I'm thinking of, her name was Joy. And she was on all 3 hormones because she had a low libido. And all 3 hormones, that includes testosterone, and her level of testosterone, normal on this particular test back when I ran this, was 0 to 55. And her level was 950 testosterone. How is that balance? Guess what her number 1 symptom was when she came to me before I ran that test? Low libido. So just to jack up someone's hormones doesn't mean it's going to take them out of symptoms. This is really targeted for women perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and then men who feel, I feel weak. I don't feel like myself, like I have that vitality or drive anymore, motivation. And so natural thing in practice is, let me put you on bioidentical hormones. So my recommendation to you is know your real levels. Know your real levels and understand what's happening downstream. These don't just go to estrogen or estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone and stay there, guys. They have to be broken down by the body. And so understanding the full picture, understanding your gut microbiome. We have a specialized gut microbiome that handles estrogen. It's called the estrobolome. Too much estrogen can actually raise histamine levels. And I see so much mast cell activation syndrome these days. So here now you're on estrogen, but you have all these food sensitivities. Wow, they're kind of worse since I've been on estrogen. That's because estrogen, excess estrogen, can activate histamine release. And then that cascades into leaky gut. So when we're not clearing estrogen, huge cascade of effects can happen. So bottom line, know your real levels. Test around your hormones before you just choose bioidentical hormone replacement. Because as I said, guys, it is not without risk. So I'm Dr. Kelley, and this is You Restored. So make sure you know your levels.